And there's so many papers up here.
My mom rules.
These grades sometimes to bring in, you know. So I just want to start off this morning by saying good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. And Guillermo, we have an agreement, okay? Sometimes he likes to upstage me, and today that will not be happening. But I just want to say that I'm honored to be with all of you here at the Green Party Convention in New Jersey. That, you know, if there's a place that I've looked at over the years that has paved the way in terms of looking at the independent political motion that's happening in the country, I've always been able to look to New Jersey. So I just want to say that from, you know, those of us that are on the other side of the bridge. And also, be sure and give my love to Ray Stever when he comes in. We're longtime old friends. And so it was really good to see that we were both on the platform today. I want to say a couple of words about, a little bit more about who I am. I come from Kensington, which is, you know, on the other side of the bridge next to Camden. You know, we can pretty much call us the Twin Cities, where Kensington is the poorest district in the state of Pennsylvania. The #1 source of income in the neighborhood that I work and live in used to be public assistance, but with the good Democrat, Bill Clinton, you remember the guy? He ended our only entitlement program in the country, and now the #1 source of income is not public assistance, it's drugs. So I basically live in a war zone each and every day of my life. Just last week, another person was killed in front of my office that I work in front of every day. And you can talk to my 8-year-old and he can pretty much tell you, you don't go to the left side of the block, you gotta go to the right. And this is an everyday way in which people have to live. I have 2 sons. I'm a formerly homeless mother. And yes, I've been arrested over 200 sometimes, participating in nonviolent civil disobedience. All of it having to do with really, I think, kind of important things in life, like people being able to eat, people being able to get access to health care, and people being able to have access to have a roof over their heads. Because I think that I proceed from this notion that we live in a country that has an absolute abundance, and we always get caught up in these questions of scarcity and like that somehow there's not enough to go around, or somehow that our budgets focusing on military spending and all of these kinds of things, like we can't turn that thing around and have that money be focused on human beings and human needs. I'm also proud to be the founder of the Kensington Welfare Rights Union, which then ballooned into 150 different like organizations across the entire country that are a part of the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign. And one of the things I think we're most proud of is we are the largest multiracial movement led by the poor in the entire country. And so we have been responsible for learning a lot about the Democrats and the Republicans in this country, because we've also organized some of the largest marches during presidential elections and have experienced what it is to have like tens of thousands of people out on the streets in wheelchairs, and the elderly and children. I know what it's like to have the entire police force start shooting at you. And it didn't matter if it was a Democrat convention or Republican convention, and it was always amazing to us that nobody would actually know that any of these things went on. And then I also, you know, learned over the years that something had to be done. So I began to hook up with the Labor Party, and I was on the the national board of the Labor Party, and then with the passing of Brother Tony Mazzocchi, we basically began to see a huge decline in the party. And so then I really began to focus on looking at what the Greens were doing, but I wasn't quite interested in stepping in yet. Yes, during Ralph Nader's run for president, I participated in all of the super rallies. I went and spoke at all of the various different super rallies. But I still wasn't ready to commit myself to being a Green. But then as time went on, and I knew this for a long time, that this one-party system that we have in this country was killing all of us, that something had to be done. And it had to not just come from middle America, but somehow I felt like I had a responsibility to begin to involve the people that were already out there in the ocean drowning. And so whether I liked it or not, there was Hugh Giordano from the Green Party of Philadelphia, a labor leader, labor organizer, came into my office one day and sat down next to me and said, "Cheri, I have an idea for you, a proposal. We Philadelphia Greens think that you should run for Sheriff of Philadelphia." First, I had absolute terror over my entire body. I thought I had diarrhea or something. If there was anything that I would never ever think about doing is running for some kind of law enforcement position. Even though I have a great deal of history with law enforcement. So I did the next thing, which is I began to create my list of 100 mentors across the country, and I figured I could at least ask them leading questions and they would tell me, no, don't do it. So I began to call the 100 people, began to get very frustrated after I got into like the 60 or 70th number, and they all said, "Cheri, not only do we think that you should run for Sheriff of Philadelphia, but we think you have a responsibility." They said, and I agreed with them, as a national leader for 25 years in an anti-poverty movement, that it was time for me to actually demonstrate the things that I believe, to step out and to run as a Green Party candidate, making it clear to the 150 organizations across the country and everybody that's involved in housing issues and anti-poverty work across the country that we need independent political motion in this country. And the best way that I could do it was to step forward and to declare myself as a candidate for Sheriff of Philadelphia. Why am I running for sheriff? Well, Emily mentioned earlier, we've got a bit of a problem in Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, like many places across the country, there's a couple ways that you get into political office in Philadelphia. You're born into it, or you're in the Democratic Party, you're anointed. They just kind of tell you, like, you're the next one that's going to be sheriff in Philadelphia, or you're the next person that's going to be whatever. And so with $53 million missing, and nobody having any idea about what happened to the $53 million after our sheriff, by the way, his name is Sheriff Green, took off with the Green. He was in office for 30 years. And so now, you know, the Democratic Party has anointed a former law enforcement official and a current Democratic Party state representative to be the next Sheriff of Philadelphia. I decided, along with my team, to step forward because we live in a country right now where every 13 seconds a family is going into foreclosure, and 1 in 5 is in risk of foreclosure. we decided that I would run on a zero evictions platform. We would target every household that was currently going to lose their homes. We're talking about families that have owned their homes, been in their homes for 20, 25, 30 years, and that now are on the verge of having their homes sold. As early as April 5th, 3,000 new homes go up for sheriff's sale. So I'm running on a platform that if I become, not if, when I become Philadelphia Sheriff, I will refuse to go out to those homes and put a writ on the door and throw women and children and their husbands out onto the streets of Philadelphia. Instead, the Sheriff's Office will be seen more as a drop-in center for problem solving. Families will be engaged in coming up with different kinds of employment in the city of Philadelphia. Perhaps we could start with renovating the 40,000 abandoned properties, many of them taken by the Sheriff's Department, to sit and to rot and to create additional crime in our communities. Those families could be put to work so that they can pay their mortgage. The second piece of my platform is that we are going to fight for a community land bank and land trust, because we've begun to understand that this fight around housing is not just a question of housing, it's also a fight around land. No longer will developers, speculators, and bankers be the only ones to determine what our neighborhoods look like. And of course, since I'm running on the Green Party ticket, we must take the Sheriff's Department and the transfer of prisoners and green it. So we will hopefully set up a new trend throughout the entire country that if anybody's transporting prisoners, that they will green all of those vehicles. We need your help. I need New Jersey Green Party to officially endorse my campaign. This campaign has national implications. We can together send a strong message across the United States of America that the Greens will no longer tolerate the banks and our elected officials sitting by while we have record numbers of families being thrown out of their homes. Already, we have 56 house parties set up across the country. We need New Jersey Greens to have house parties for this campaign. Bring friends into your household, into your church, into your mosque. Talk about this campaign that's taking place in Philadelphia that refuses to throw families out. Bring some of the Greens from New Jersey across the bridge for a day, a weekend. Bring your children for a couple days of canvassing. And together we can grow and inspire the Greens. Greens are coming from as far across the country as Minnesota to help go door knocking and participate in this campaign. And follow this campaign on our website at CheriHonkala.com. Also, I'm asking today to give us access to your members in New Jersey, many of whom might potentially be in foreclosure themselves. Also, I'm asking you, if you want to, after your day of participating in labor demonstrations on April 4th, come spend the night with us on the evening of April 4th as we sleep in front of the Philadelphia Sheriff's Department, because the morning of April 5th, they are determined to sell another 3,000 homes, and we are determined to stop the sales of those 3,000 homes on April 5th. Together, I can win this. Together, we can keep families in their homes. Again, I'm honored to speak before you today. I need your help. You know, somebody told me earlier, you know, I just learned that Kermit the Frog's slogan was, "It ain't easy being green." And boy, have I learned a lot about that. Coming from a mass movement whose website gets over 1 million hits on our website, I think I was a new equation for the Philadelphia Greens. I think it was approximately after like a week or two that I had, you know, officially declared and decided to run on the Green Party ticket, that they had already received their first letter about that horrible Cheri Honkala that went to the statewide organization and the local organization. This is going to be one hell of a battle. A lot of people don't step forward and decide to take on the banks. It's not a very popular thing to do today. But I think if there's any issue that's, you know, a primary issue that we need to hold on to and address in this country, is the fact that the American people cannot afford any longer to live in their homes. And so join me as we send a message across this country. To be a member of the Green Party is somebody that believes in keeping families in their homes. Thank you very much.